All right, we're going to call to order so we can start to hear from our Congressional District 1, our CU Board of Regents, our State Senate candidates, our House candidates. Each candidate will get 5 minutes to speak. Do we have our timekeeper in the room and ready? Is she here? Oh, cool. Thank you, Dana. Awesome. So this next person coming up is running for Congressional District 1 against the incumbent, Diana Degette. So if you would please help welcome my friend and neighbor, Chuck Norris.
Good afternoon, and happy March 6th. March 6th this year is the 159th anniversary of the Dred Scott decision. For those of you that have forgot your American history, the Dred Scott decision was when the Supreme Court of the United States, in its institutional wisdom, declared that blacks, whether slave or free, had no basis for filing lawsuits in the United States because they were not and would never be citizens of the United States, because the Constitution did not recognize them as being full people. They were only 5/6 of a person at that time. 5 years ago, the United States Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, declared that corporations are people. And that those corporations can spend absolutely as much money as they want to, because there's no evidence that unrestrained spending has any deleterious effects on politics in the United States. So the Supreme Court gets it wrong from time to time. My name's Charles Norris. I do go by Chuck. Apparently at caucuses that created a little bit of confusion. People were told that Chuck Norris is running against Diana Degette, and generally that was met with laughs. It's not a joke, it's real, and there is no punchline to it, although one might argue that when I get on the ballot on April 9th for a true primary, there may be a punchline. I have organized my thoughts in this campaign along 3 legs, if you will, of a tripod, if not a platform. One is cash, which refers to political money. One is carbon, which refers to the damage we're doing to our environment right now. And that one is of particular importance and significance to me. I'm a career-long geologist. I've worked with the earth and water, and I know what's going on with the atmosphere. And we are in very severe problems that if we don't take virtually draconian steps at this point, we're not going to have a chance to do anything except try and subsist in the new world we've created. The third leg is community. And community, it turns out, is that part of the political system that entails all of the politics we normally pay attention to. We don't pay attention to money in a meaningful way. We don't pay attention to carbon in a meaningful way. So everything else falls in community. It's our neighborhoods, it's our healthcare system or lack thereof, it's education, it's infrastructure, it is the detour that I had to make yesterday when I was driving out to House District 4, and I was going down Park Avenue, and I was detoured around probably a dozen or two squad cars with their lights flashing, half dozen or a dozen fire trucks with their hoses connected, removing the blight of the homeless from the area around the Samaritan House. They were being displaced, their possessions were being taken, and the fire trucks were washing our streets clean of their debris. That is a part of our community that we are now ignoring and literally not allowing to be citizens of the United States again. And it is a tip of an iceberg that is big and is dangerous. And I actually thank Donald Trump for making it clear to us how close this country is to being in big, big trouble. If he hadn't decided to bring all of those people together, all of the angry, the disenfranchised, on the Republican side of the platform, we would be able to ignore the fact that a large segment of our population is very, very unhappy right now. We need to help do that. We are the party that tends to at least give lip service to doing that. And I think we need to be much more aggressive in doing so. Am I out of time? All right. 5 minutes goes fast. I appreciate your patience. My website is cnorris for cd1.org. Email me, write me, and I hope I can have your help at CD Assembly on April 9th.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Round of applause for Chuck. All right, so the next slate of candidates are our CU Regent District 1 candidates. We do have 3 of those here today. Each of those are going to be allocated 5 minutes, so we'll go ahead and get started with our first candidate, Jack Kroll.
No, I got it. This is great. How's everybody doing today? Good. Good to see so many friendly people out there. So how many of you actually know what a CU Regent does? Raise your hand. Yes, we got a few in the back. The hardcore political people in the back really know what this is. So a CU Regent is someone who serves on the board of directors for the University of Colorado system. We are one of 4 states that actually elects its board of regents through a popular election. And I think that gives the citizens of the state of Colorado a wonderful opportunity to hold their university accountable. Here's one issue that I'd like to bring up right off the bat. Last year, the university allocated more funding to renovating its football stadium than it did to financial aid across all 4 CU campuses. Right? We need to do more to invest in students. A CU education for 1 year for an in-state student. Anyone want to take a guess? Total cost of attendance, $30,000. Right? We need to do more to make sure college is affordable for everybody. I am the only candidate in this race that works with students. As an assistant director of admissions, I have the honor and privilege of working with thousands of students and families every year trying to realize that dream of a college education. And I get to oversee 100 student volunteers, and I get to hear about the challenges those students and families face when it comes to affording a higher education. 5 years ago when I started in this position, it was a lot easier to afford a CU education. Now, I see a lot of middle and lower income families struggling to make college a reality for their students. And we have to change that. We need to invest more in financial aid. We need to curb administrative spending. I want to tell you a story from the time I served as the student representative to the Board of Regents. The Regents that year voted to increase tuition 9.3%. It was one of the largest single tuition increases in the university's history. And what did our administration do? Well, they turned around and they gave themselves $20,000 to $60,000 raises right during the middle of Occupy Wall Street. We need a regent that's going to stand up to wasteful spending, stand up to administration. You know, when I said that the other day in one of our debates, I got called into my boss's office because, you know, I worked for CU, and he said, "Why'd you say that?" And I said, "Because it's true." Right? I'm also the only candidate in this race that spends their free time serving on their university's alumni association. As president of the CU Denver Alumni Association, I have helped to raise over $250,000 in scholarships for needy and well-deserving students. And tonight, right over at the Rock Bottom Brewery, we're going to raise another $40,000 to $60,000 for students so that they can afford a college education. We need a regent that puts students first. I want to take a moment and talk about diversity. We know that the University of Colorado has a long way to go before it becomes a diverse and inclusive institution. Yet my fiance, if she were with me here today, she's not because she's out recruiting students. If she were with me here today, she would be able to tell you that when she took over the team that recruits diverse students to the CU Boulder campus, and to this day, we have increased the number of minority students enrolling in our freshman class by 30%. I want to take a moment and talk about our staff and faculty. Some people ask me, is it a conflict of interest for you to serve as both an employee of the university and on the board? And I say no. And the reason why it is, one, it's not legally prevented, but two, we are the third largest employer in the state. We have 30,000 employees, and we need someone to be a strong voice for labor on our campus. We need to take care of our adjunct faculty, not take advantage of them. The last thing I want to hit on here is helping our soldiers transition to being students. How many of you are veterans or know a veteran in this room? We know that these men and women served our country. They all now have a full right to go to school if they're transitioning out of the military with a honorable discharge. So there's a full right to go anywhere in the country. Yet 8 out of the top 10 institutions that receive your federal tax dollars in the form of GI Bill payments are for-profit colleges. We have to change that. Traditional higher education has to do more to serve our veterans. Yes. And the last thing I want to close with is a story for why I do what I do. Not just necessarily running for Regent, but working with students every day, serving on our alumni association. It's a story from my first year out of college. I found myself over at Lincoln High School. How many DPS grads we got in here? A few? Okay, good. A lot of out-of-towners, or a lot of people moving to Denver. It's a great city, right? Am I wrong? Denver's a wonderful city, right? So I find myself at Lincoln High School, and I'm sitting across the table doing an application workshop with a young lady who came, clearly, from her essays, came from a broken family with missed opportunities and little opportunity for a bright future. Yet I saw a bright young lady based off of her grades. And I said, not only are you going to get into college, but I can name about 6 schools right now in the state of Colorado that will accept you. She looked right back at me and said, no one has ever told me I could go to college before. That is why I do what I do. That is why I'm running to be your next CU Regent. Kroll for Colorado is the website. When you get that primary ballot in the mail, and when you show up at County Assembly, I ask you one thing, to roll with Kroll.
Thank you, Jack. All right, the next CU Regent candidate that we have is Lucky Vidmar.
Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to be with you. We have the largest district of any candidate here, but thank you all for holding this rally about 4 blocks from my house, so it's really helpful. Thank you. Also, before I start my campaign spiel, I want to thank you all for your commitment to the progressive cause that you are keeping after the presidential race. So often the primaries or the caucus is over and the presidential race backs up and all the energy is gone. So let's hope that doesn't happen this time. I think there's a lot of energy that we need to keep. So I bring to you a history and a life experience in progressive thought. I grew up in Yugoslavia, which is one of the most progressive democratic socialist countries. Not the caricature of Russians and all these ugly things. It was actually really a country where we cared about equality, true equality, social compact, workers' rights, education, all of those things. And I'll go out on a limb and say I'm probably the only candidate here who's been a member of a youth socialist organization. So those are my progressive credentials I bring to you today. We cared about education, and when I left Yugoslavia, it's been said on this campaign trail that I left because it was socialist. No, that's not true. I left because socialism fell apart and it was replaced by this ugly ethnic conflict, and I had to run away because I was from a multi-ethnic family. So I ended up in Boulder with no money. I grew up to a single mom in a small apartment where we shared a bathroom with 2 other families. I have no money. I don't know anybody. I live the struggles of all of the families you know of going to college. But because University of Colorado at the time was proudly public, I got a lot of help along the way. I earned 2 engineering degrees from CU. I started my software company, later went to law school at night while working, and now I'm a patent lawyer here in town. So I'm running for Regent to make sure that this story is repeated all over our city and all over our state. Now, why is it not being repeated as much? The problem is that when I was there, the spending of the university was $1 billion. Today, it's $3.5 billion. Okay? The state funding has been about the same. Guess what's happened? Tuition's gone up probably 6 times because of this increased spending. All of the problems at CU you can track to this increased spending. Because of all these policies, you end up recruiting all of these out-of-state students, and there's this vicious cycle. And that's how you end up with a Boulder campus where you can have racist graffiti and this really sort of problem of diversity that we have to fix. I'm running to change all that with a new mindset. CU does not have a resource problem, it has an imagination problem. Okay, so we need a new vision, we need a new compact, we need a new focusing on the public purpose of this university. Just because you could raise tuition doesn't mean you should. That's what a public university should do. Okay, we are going to rethink public education from top to bottom. We have to. We cannot keep doing what we've been doing and expect a different result. We can't do things at the margins and expect things to change. It won't. We need to be thinking very, very strategically and very big. Okay? Let's think big. Let's carry this revolutionary thoughts into higher ed. That's what I'm promising for you, because that's what we need to do for our kids. What else can I tell you? I think the 3 of us here in this race, we agree on what ails the university. You have 3 different people, one in the mid-20s, one in the mid-30s, I'm in the mid-40s, different backgrounds. Especially, Zach and I agree on just about everything. But let me just touch on what Jack was saying about this, the line that he gave you about football funding and financial aid, and you all booed. Well, I would boo too, but it's just not right. It's not accurate, okay? Here's why. The numbers aren't right. He's comparing 1 year's of financial aid to a 5-year construction budget, right? So it's not true that in 1 year, CU spend more on football than on financial aid. Even if it was true, those are 2 completely different accounts. One is paid by the athletic department, one by the university. But let me tell you why this is really not right. The athletic department is a very, very small part of the university. We have much bigger fish to fry. It's $10 or $15 million of university funding goes to athletics, okay, out of $3.5 billion. We have big problems to solve. Political slogans and shiny little things that everybody boos is fine. I would boo it too. But we need somebody who has management, experience, and skills to tackle a $3.5 billion operation. And I bring you that. I also bring you leadership and vision for a completely different university, completely different way of approaching public education in this state. My name is Lucky Vidmar. Vidmar for Colorado is my website. I'd like to have your support.
All right, thank you, Lucky. Okay, next up is Zachary Rothmier.
Thank you. Turns out the lights are a little brighter when you're 6'6", so I'm actually going to step down here. So I'm going to start off telling you a little bit about myself, where I'm coming from. I was born just down the road at St. Joe's. I grew up in Arvada, a very middle-class family. My father was a pipe fitter, local 669, if there's anyone from the trades in here. My grandfather was also, all right, local 669. I'm not local 669 because I had a great opportunity that was provided by our state university. I went to the University of Colorado. It was $2,500 a year. All right, that was affordable for my family to save up that tuition. I made $213 an hour in college, waiting tables. But I was able to go there because the tuition was paid for. Now, since I graduated, I came down to Denver. I started working at the State House. As the legislators in the room know, Legislative Legal Services is the office that drafts legislation. That's where I worked. Worked there for a few years. While I was working, I went back to school down here at the University of Colorado in Denver, another campus. Phenomenal program. And I was able to go to do an internship at the UN in Geneva through that program. Great experience, economic development. I came back. I worked for CU. I did education policy. I went and worked doing economic development for the state of Oregon. I did water policy for 4 years. I currently work for City Council as a legislative analyst. So When the council members want to know how can we help the homeless, I'm the one that's trying to come up with the ideas and presenting it to them on how they can fund it, how it's going to work, and what the ramifications are of those programs. And I say helping the homeless, not kicking them out. So we've touched a little bit about the problems of CU. Now, tuition, as I mentioned, for me was $2,500 a year. It's $11,000 a year. Is that affordable to anybody in this room? No. $11,000 a year? If you are, you probably might be in the wrong room. We're good Democrats. But what makes that tuition go up? Is it the state funding going down? Partially. When I was there, state funding was 15% of the operating budget. It's about 5% now. But it's also been mismanaged. So in the same 15 years, we've built sushi restaurants, Ralphie-shaped pools, a wellness center on our commuter campus that will benefit a very small margin of the population, since the median age of that campus is 27 or 28, depending on the year. This has been a mismanagement of your funds, your taxpayer funds. So what do we want to do? I want to cap tuition, because our in-state students need to have a reasonable expectation of what tuition at our state university is going to cost. So if you can cap tuition increases, you can flow everything else, that's fine, as we do now. But in 2006, 2007, when the university increased tuition over 1 year, 26.7%, those students who saved up enough money for 4 years and were now able to pay 3 years, those students that were expecting $20,000 in debt now have $30,000 in debt. That's not right to our citizens of Colorado. We need to change that. So we need to cap tuition. That's one thing. Second thing, we need to put a moratorium on our superfluous bills. I don't know about you, but I didn't have a Ralphie-shaped pool. I didn't have time to use it. I was working. But it adds nothing to the educational value of the university that we collectively are paying for. Now, the last thing we need to do is increase our diversity. And no offense to my opponent and his fiance, but our diversity at the University of Colorado is deplorable. And our recruiting is terrible. In Denver is the sixth most represented county in CU Boulder. Okay, we're the most populous county by about 100,000 people in the state. We're failing our citizens. We have 28% Latinos in Denver. Boulder campus, 10%. We don't reflect the diversity of our state that we collectively are paying for this university. So you've heard a lot of good stories. You've heard a lot of good experience. How much we love CU. I still do see advocates. I just finished the Rocky Mountain Leadership Program through CU. I even married a CU soccer coach. We all have a lot of pride in CU. That doesn't make us unique. That doesn't make us special. That doesn't make us a qualified regent. We all have, I think, collectively 5 degrees from the university. That doesn't make us qualified. There are 15,000 graduates every year from that university. But what distinguishes me and makes me qualified is I spent the last decade working on public policy behind the scenes. I know how to make change. I know how to sit down and understand how a $3.3 billion budget works and what an enterprise fund is in that budget. I know how to make changes, make amendments, find where the superfluous spending is, and actually make a change. So as you go to the ballots, I just want you to remember this. You're our employer. You are good Democrats. Democrats of CD1 mostly. But we work for you. So when you go and you want to hire somebody, you need to hire the most qualified, but also the most capable of doing that job. With that, I urge you to support Zach Rothmier for CU Regent. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Zach. So now I'm going to actually have Ethan come up. We're going to have the Senate District 31 candidates. Please come over here. And I also want to tell you about some events. Our buddy Brian in the back is running sound. He's done a great job today. He's got some shoe polish. If you want some Vote for Bernie written on in the back of your window, he will do that for you after this. Just talk to him. He's in the back there. And Ethan, come on up. Ethan knows about some events that are coming up where you can talk to some of your representatives. So why don't you just tell them that real quick.
All right, so part of our task as Bernie supporters is we need to convince superdelegates that they need to support the will of the people, correct? And there's multiple ways to do that. We can call their office, we can try and stop by their office, we can write them letters, and there's a couple events with Diana Degette, who is a superdelegate currently supporting Hillary Clinton, that are happening next 2 days, and I'd really like to encourage all of you, if you can, to show up. If we show up in big numbers, she's going to start to consider whether or not she's picked the right side. So, tomorrow night at the Blake Street Tavern at 6:30. Blake Street Tavern, 6:30. She's holding a public forum about campaign finance reform. And that's not a joke. Also, on Tuesday, and this is during the day, which is a little bit trickier for a lot of us if you have a job during regular business hours, from 10 o'clock to 11:30 at the Community College of Denver. She's basically having the same thing, another community forum about campaign finance reform. So, would love for as many of you as possible to show up, and let's be nice, let's be respectful, and engage in the conversation, but also let's stand firm with supporting Bernie in his quest for publicly funded campaigns, because it kind of solves the whole problem. Let me give you a couple more details. You can also check this out on her website. It's also on Facebook. But the location on the Community College of Denver is it's 800 Curtis Street, Confluence, room 105, 10 o'clock Tuesday. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to move on to Senate District 31. If you live south of Colfax in East Denver, chances are you are in Senate District 31. So our first candidate will be Erin Bennett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Erin Bennett. I'm running for Senate District 31. And I'm running for State Senate to bring a new generation of progressive leadership to our state capitol. I moved to Colorado 14 years ago. I grew up in St. Louis and moved out to Colorado to go to Colorado College. I had grown up going to summer camp in Steamboat Springs and absolutely fell in love with the mountains in Colorado, the blue skies, the aspen trees, and I knew that I absolutely wanted to move here as soon as I could. I lived in Colorado Springs for 6 years, and then it was 2008, and I knew I needed to be in a much more progressive city, especially with the upcoming election, and so I moved to Denver and started working for an organization called 9 to 5 that works to improve the workplace for women and their families. I started as an organizer and worked there for the last 8 years, and while I was working there, I really became incredibly disappointed with the lack of leadership among our Democratic elected officials when it comes to issues affecting working families. There aren't nearly enough people in our state capitol who are going to stand up for working families, stand up to corporate interests and to business interests, and say we need to be doing better as a state. We need to be making sure that everyone is able to make ends meet and thrive in their communities, and that we need to be working to create an economy that works for everyone and not just those at the top. And that's why I really decided to run for office, is because I knew, especially in Denver, in a district that is overwhelmingly made up of Democratic voters, that we need a progressive champion who's going to stand up for working families and really stand up to the corporate interests and the business lobbyists that control so much of our state legislature. A lot of the issues that I care a lot about and that matter most to me are the issues that I spent my career working on. So making sure that everyone has access to a good job with living wages and flexible benefits on the job. I've been a champion for paid family and medical leave. Only about 13% of employees in our state have access to paid family leave, which means that far too many families are losing income or losing their job just because they have a new baby or because they need to take care of themselves or a loved one when they're sick. That is an atrocity in our state and in our country. And the United States is the only industrialized nation in the world that doesn't have offer paid family leave and especially paid maternity leave to all employees in the country. That would be the first issue that I would work to tackle when elected state senator. It's something that I've worked on for the last couple years. It's an issue that we saw 2 Democrats vote against in the legislature last year. This is an issue that President Obama has championed and that Democrats across the country have really been pushing for, and we need Democrats who are going to stand up for all of us and not the corporate interests and not the business lobbyists. Another issue that matters a lot to me is affordable housing. How many of you rent in Denver?
I just got chased out of Denver because
Yeah.
I can't afford to rent.
Exactly. I'm a renter in Denver. I'm the only one in my race that is a renter in Denver. I live in Cheeseman Park and have lived in Capitol Hill, Congress Park for most of the time that I've lived in Denver. And I hear stories every single day while I'm knocking doors of people whose rent is going up $300, $400, $500 a month when they're renewing their leases. People who are being pushed out of their communities where they've built their families and really worked to build a community with their neighbors. We need to tackle this crisis. We need to do something to make sure that as long as wages are not going up more than a few cents a year, the minimum wage, that we need to do something to make sure that people are able to stay in their homes and stay with their communities and not be pushed out. I'll just also add that in my race, I'm the only candidate that is supporting Bernie Sanders for president. I was really proud to stand with the rest of Colorado in supporting Bernie on Tuesday. And him running for president allows candidates like me who are working to create an economy that works for everyone. It's what allows me to run for office and gain so much support like all of you. And I'm just incredibly proud that Colorado stood with Bernie on Tuesday. So if you live in Senate District 31, I would be really honored to have your support. If you don't live in Senate District 31, you can certainly volunteer on the campaign or make a financial contribution. I'm the only candidate in my race that is not taking money from corporate interests, oil and gas, developers, or education reform, either in organizational donations or donations from their lobbyists. I take money from people who have worked with me throughout my career and organizations that I've had the fortune of working with, and I hope to gain all of your support. Again, it's Erin Bennett, Senate District 31. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Erin. And folks, could you please, if we could please keep side conversations down, I would like to hear all our candidates. Next up, we have Lois Court.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Lois Court. I currently am the representative for House District 6, which is in East Central Denver, and I am a candidate for the state Senate race, which is Senate 31, which Erin just talked to you about, and that is East Central and Southeast Denver. How many of you are from that area? Good for you. Well, you're the people that matter. You're the people who are deciding who your next state senator will be. So I'm talking to you. Of those of you, and of everybody else in the room, how many of you, is this your first experience in getting involved? Good for you. I am very proud of you. In my real life, I am an American government professor. I tell my students the most important thing you can do as a young person is get involved. Get involved. Participate. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It is for you. We don't exist except for you. I exist for people like the veteran who contacted me the other day and said he was having trouble getting his benefits so he could go to school at Metro. So because of the 8 years of experience I have, plus the 20 years before that in Colorado Democratic policy and politics, I knew how to contact the president's office at Metro State and say, somebody needs to help this man. So having that background gives me the connections to talk with people. I am also the only person in this race who has never taken a dime for the entire time I have been in office of any kind of special interest money. No insurance companies, no PACs, no small donors, none of it. I do not take it. Just like Bernie, I am passionate about getting the influence of money out of politics. Every dime I have is from an individual, whether it's a friend, a family member, or somebody in the district, and over 50% of my contributions are from constituents, and I'm very proud of that because I think it is the people we serve who should decide who we are. And I encourage you, all of you, to look on the Secretary of State's website. Look at the candidates that you're considering voting for at every level and see where their money comes from. Bernie is absolutely right that there are way too many contributions, there is way too much influence from special interests. But think about all these other races like ours. Think about where that money's coming from. And let me give you a hint, guys. They're not giving the money. Wall Street and the insurance companies aren't giving it just because they're nice guys. They're giving it because they want something in return. How many of you know who Ken Gordon was? How many of you remember that name? Ken is a predecessor in this seat that I'm running for. He's the godfather of no PAC money in Colorado. And let me tell you something, when I talked with Ken about running for this seat, for the House seat originally 8 years ago, and he said to me, will you agree to not take special interest money? And I said, absolutely, I will. I will agree to that. And he said, you'll find that it matters, and it does matter. Because if people contact me and they say, well, we want you to do this or we want you to do that, and I don't agree with them and they never gave me money, I can say, go away. Just go away. I don't want to listen to you. But if a constituent contacts me, I try really hard to pay attention. Does that mean that I always do everything everyone wants me to? No. Lincoln was right. You can't please all the people all the time. But I have a very progressive record. I think it's a 96% rating from Conservation Colorado for my entire career in the legislature. Thank you. I also was the Democrat of the Year for the Denver Democrats in 2010. And I also am extremely active, well, I am the prime sponsor of the End of Life Options. How many of you have been hearing about that? That's my bill. That's my bill. We've tried twice. We still haven't gotten there. If I get into the Senate, it will be the first bill I introduce because I think people should absolutely be able to choose how they end their lives if that's what they want to do. So I feel that I am a very progressive candidate. I bring you a great deal of background and knowledge. I have a passion. You know, I have run 3 different bills to change campaign financing in Colorado. And they die in the State Affairs Committee because guess what? Democrats like their money too. So let me just, I'm just saying it like it is. But I will keep working on that because it's something I truly believe in. I've never taken special interest money. Look at my website, look at the Secretary of State's report, not a dime from any special interest group, insurance company or otherwise. Thank you very much. I hope to earn your support.
Thank you, Representative Court. And for our final Senate District 31 candidate, we have Steve Sherick.
All right, thanks so much, Derrick. Indeed, my name is Steve Sherick. I am the 3rd and final candidate for State Senate District 31. This is a little bit of an out-of-body experience for me. This marks 20 years that I've been coming to the Mercury Cafe. And my campaign volunteers would beat me up if I didn't tell the story, but I remember in 1996 standing right about here singing a solo with Blink-182. For the few of us who listen to Blink, that was a special moment in my life, and it led me to spend more time down here, spend more time at the Mercury Cafe. And how many of you have been to the Sunday evening poetry slams? People been to those? I would say, without a doubt, the poetry slams here on Sunday evenings changed my entire life. It changed my political views massively. Andrea Gibson, who is a national champion slam poet from here, she changed everything for me. And if you've not heard her poetry in the past, I highly recommend it. And she taught me to examine some of my views. I come from the red part of the state where most of my family is Republican and they're very disappointed in me now. But that's okay. I even have some Trump voters in my family. And it's sad. It's unbelievable. And but at the same time, I was challenged in that to say, okay, what can you do with the Capitol? And the ones who are underrepresented are the ones who I am running to represent myself. That is the workers. That's folks who are fighting for a $15 minimum wage, which I support. It's incentivizing businesses to take better care of their folks. It's looking at criminal justice reform. Pat Stedman is the current senator from our district, and he has been working against private prisons and spending money on keeping people in jail and taking that money away from our schools to do that for his entire career. And I will continue his legacy. Because of my commitments on that subject, on GLBT rights, of which he is the unquestioned leader in our city and in our state, he has endorsed me to be the next senator. And he took that decision very seriously. We have 3 strong candidates in this race, and he wants someone who can lead on these issues, who wants to do away with all mandatory minimums. What would that do for our state, for all the people who are in jail right now because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or with some marijuana in their pocket, which is ridiculous. That we're willing to put somebody in jail, spend $50 grand a year to have them in jail, but we won't spend more than $6,500 per student on our schools and K through 12 education. So expect me to lead very much on healthcare issues as well. Obviously, I worked my entire career in that issue, fighting for healthcare as a human right, unequivocally. And especially doing that in rooms that are not so friendly to that idea. And the question that I ask of the colleagues on the other side of the aisle, the people who disagree, are we going to let people die on the street? I sure as hell hope not. And if we're not going to do that, then let's build a system around that, because they don't have an answer. They don't have an answer to that question about whether we're going to let people die on the street. And I know that we are better than that as a country. By you showing up today, you are showing that we are better than that as a country. For all the passion you're showing for Bernie and all the other candidates, thank you for being here, and stick with it, please. Please stick with it. Vote down ballot. Vote in the Senate races and the C Regent races. It matters. Ask us the hard questions, because you deserve excellence in your legislators on all the issues that we care about that I outlined quickly. So my name is Steve Sherick. I would very much appreciate your support. I'll stick around to talk about you some more. Come and meet my son Enzo, who's running around. He's 18 months old. He's way cooler than me. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, how about a hand for our state Senate candidates? Great slate of candidates for that position. All right, so next we have another Senate district, or state Senate district, 33. We've got 2 candidates from that district, and we'll go ahead and start with Angela Williams.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Democrats. I just want to first say thank you for all of your patience on Tuesday night to hang in there, to make sure that you're a part of the democracy and the process that we had. I know that it was cumbersome, but it's because of you we're here today. So I want to thank you for being a part on Tuesday night. I'm Angela Williams, and I'm the current state representative for House District 7, which is Green Valley Ranch, Montbello, Stapleton, and Park Hill up to Monaco. I have been serving in the legislature for the past 6 years, and it's been such an honor to serve the people of Colorado. But when I ran 6 years ago, I ran because I want to be a voice for those that do not have a voice. This is the reason I ran the compensation for the wrongly convicted. How many of you read the story about Robert Dewey, who served 18 years unjustly? Robert was proven innocent by technology. Robert will now have health care. He'll have an opportunity in education. And yes, he gets compensation for every year he served unjustly in our Colorado jails. Many of you are aware of what's been going on around the country with the mistreatment of people by our police. I heard several of our DA candidates talk about the Rebuilding Trust package. How many of you know that I led that? That is my package. We passed 6 out of 10 bills with bipartisan support in a split chamber. And that's one of the things I bring when I come to the legislature and when I hope to get elected as your next state senator. Someone who can bring the parties together, bring them together, work across the aisle, and bring solutions. Those police reform bills we passed help mandate body cams, misrepresentation by police officers, upgrading the training, the 16-week training that our police take. Because when they go through that 16-week training, there's no update of the training. And that's what I did. This year, I'm heading up a team. We will introduce and hear in committee this week 5 bills that will continue to rebuild trust with our police officers. One of them being employment background checks. All of our police are not bad police, but we do have some bad apples in the system. We're going to require more background checks, more deeper background checks. We're going to run a bill on the chokehold. I know you've seen them in the paper, where so many have died in our jails. That's me. That's who I want to fight for, those that don't have a voice. And I've been a small business owner for 14 years, okay? And that's one of the reasons I ran, because small businesses don't have a voice in this state. I make sure that bills that come to my committee encourage growth and remove the barriers to make sure that businesses can succeed. And I also passed the Work Act. The Work Act is a $10 million bill. Each year, $3 million will be allocated to industries to make sure that industries like construction, who are low on the resources for skilled trained workers, will be trained and make high-paying jobs. There's been a lot of conversation about progressive candidates. And I want to share with you some of the things I've done in the legislature. I was the prime sponsor of the asset bill. Remember, we wanted to make sure undocumented students can go to college. I passed the Work Act. I was a big sponsor and a supporter of civil unions. I supported gun safety, particularly ensuring that the magazine limits were reduced. We did background checks. That's important. I got an A+ on women's rights. That's why I killed the personhood bill in my committee this year. And I got an A+ scorecard for Conservation Colorado. I want to wrap up by saying, but this is not enough. This is just not enough. There are too many people out there that aren't making a good living. I will continue to fight to make sure that the minimum wage is increased. I want to make sure that college is affordable for our students. I put a young man through college, and I know what that means to you as parents. In closing, I just want to say to you that those of you who live in Senate District 33, you deserve a candidate who's going to be there for you, take action, and get results. So thank you. I'm State Representative Angela Williams, and I ask you for your support as your next state senator of Senate District 33.
All right, our next candidate from Senate District 33 is CPR's own John Biggerstaff.
Thanks, Sherick. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Wow, look at this turnout.
Yeah.
I remember when there was like 15 of us 8 months ago. This is amazing. My name is John Biggerstaff. I'm running for Senate in District 33. Hope you don't mind. I kind of changed what I was going to say, so I have some notes written down here. Let's see here. So 9 months or so ago, I got this crazy idea, or we got this crazy idea, that we could win a Democratic primary without taking any special interest money, without taking any PAC money, any special interest money at all, even from people that we agreed with. And at that time, it seemed kind of silly, honestly. No one thought that we could do that, we could pull that off, that we could actually be competitive without taking special interest money. And the funny thing about it is there's this dichotomy in the Democratic Party. You know, we hear a lot about things like Citizens United and money in politics. Yet we elect Democrats who take money from insurance PACs, use that money to fund their campaign, and then they vote against paid family leave right here in Colorado. And I'm talking about people in this room. We hate Citizens United, but we elect Democrats who fund their campaigns from PACs that are funded by energy companies, oil and gas companies, and then they vote to make it harder for us to pass regulations to regulate fracking. That happens right here in Colorado. You know, we elect Democrats who take money from businesses and their PACs, and then we wonder why we can't increase the minimum wage. And I think that's a problem. I think it matters which kind of Democrats that we elect. My campaign for Senate is a small part of a much larger progressive revolution. I honestly feel that way. It's not about me. And it's about, I'm just going to say this, I'm sorry guys. My campaign is a small part of progressive revolution designed to kick these kind of Democrats out of office. I was trying to think of a politically correct way to say that. I really can't do it. And I don't care whether you're in Congress or whether you're running for president. I don't care what kind of offers that you're serving. Because honestly, if you don't think healthcare is a human right, you are not on our side to begin with. If you're on the city council right now and you're criminalizing homelessness, you are not on our side to begin with. I don't have a bunch of PAC money. I never asked for any of it. And honestly, we're not even asking for endorsements. I'm not looking for John Hickenlooper's endorsement. I'm not looking for Michael Bennett's endorsement. That's not what we need to actually move forward and change this party. Because honestly, we have the hardest working, most dedicated people behind this movement. And that's what's going to move us forward. A lot of them are in this room right now making events like this happen. Politics shouldn't be for sale. Votes shouldn't be for sale. Politics, to me, it's about working hard for everyone, especially those that don't have tons of money to contribute to a political campaign. And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but this is a problem in the Democratic Party as well. So when you hear people talking about this, talking about what they support, look at their campaign contributions, look at their voting records, and ask yourselves, is that progressive? Are those the Democrats we need to elect, especially in our safe Democratic districts? I'm trying to be politically correct here, but I'm having a problem. You know, 9 months ago, people thought that this campaign, honestly, it was silly. The idea that we can win a primary without taking interest money. But honestly, guess what? Bernie Sanders just won the state by 20 points. Yeah. Who could have predicted that 9 months ago? That's true. Derrick did predict it. I have to give him credit for that. I asked for your support at Assembly and the primary. I asked for your support overturning the urban camping ban. I asked for your support for Colorado Care and progressive causes all around the states. I asked for support in all kinds of legislative candidates we have running that are pushing this progressive agenda. Thank you so much. You guys are the revolution. You guys are what make campaigns like Bernie Sanders, like mine, possible. This never would have happened a couple of years ago. You are the revolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. All right, so moving on to our state House District candidates. We have our candidates from House District 6 joining us today. So we'll go ahead and start with Chris Hansen.
Well, a very warm greetings to everyone. Beautiful afternoon. It's almost too bad we couldn't take this outside. This is unbelievable sunshine and making it easier to canvass all around the state. I hope, guessing a lot of people in the room had a lot of doors knocking the last couple months. I know myself, I'm at about 2,000 doors now knocking in House District 6. I've come to the firm belief that to be able to be successful in these state races, that is the only way to go, right? You got to talk to people door by door, precinct by precinct, and that's really what our campaign has been all about. Again, my name is Chris Hansen, and I grew up kind of in a similar situation to what Steve mentioned earlier. I was in the red part of America, grew out on the Eastern Plains, and you know, a lot of Republicans in my family, and luckily I got out and was able to turn things around in my own life, so to speak, and stand here proudly today and as a candidate for House District 6 because I want to fight for the core values of our party. And what I thought I'd do with the 5 minutes that I have with you is just talk about 3 really important issues for me, 3 things I'd really like to highlight and have been highlighting in my campaign. First of all, I really want to focus in on the environment. My academic and professional career, the research that I've done throughout my life has been focused on getting more clean energy built. And so if you're really interested in getting more wind, more solar, and less carbon in this state, then I think I'm the candidate for you. I've worked on those types of projects all around the world. I've worked on those projects all around the United States of actually getting them built and financed more wind and more solar. And that's a piece of experience that I really want to bring to the State House, increase our renewable portfolio standard, make sure that we've got a target that we're shooting for as a state so we're increasing the amount of clean energy that we're using. And that's so important. I mean, think about the statistics that we just learned. In 2015, it was the hottest year in the history of the world. And if you look at the last 16 years, 15 of them are the hottest 15 years in the history of the world. We have a moral obligation to address climate change right now. And that's exactly what I'd like to do if I'm elected to this seat. And it's one of those things that can't wait. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I've got 2 young sons, 7 and 9 years old, and we love to go up and hike in the mountains, right? And you hear the aspen leaves and smell the pine, but we know what's happening, especially in the high country, right? Global warming has made things like the pine beetle spread and become extremely damaging across the state. And we're going to see more and more of that as our climate starts to change. So if we want to be careful with our environment now, if we want to pass on a great environment to our kids, I know I certainly do, we have to address carbon. And I want to bring the experience that I've had both on the academic research side when I did my PhD and my master's degrees, but also the experience I've had on the professional side of getting these things built. So that's the number one thing I want to highlight with you today. Number two, which also I think kind of relates to my kids and all of the kids in the audience today and the kids at home, we are underfunding our schools. Terribly underfunding our schools. We are $1 billion behind in Colorado right now. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, lots of excuses, but we are not fulfilling our obligation to provide great schools for every child in the state. Now, the negative factor, which you may have read about in the papers, we're $1.1 billion in the negative factor right now for K-12, just for K-12. That doesn't have anything, this funding shortfalls for early childhood and preschool programs, that doesn't talk about the higher ed shortfalls that we've had. Just K-12, we're over $1 billion behind. And we need to get serious about it now. It's things in the short term, like creating a hospital provider fee that is not counted inside the Tabor caps, right? How many of you in the room know about Tabor? This is a crowd I 100% expect to know about Tabor. We need to amend and abolish Tabor right now. Otherwise, we can't fund our priorities. Can't do it. It's impossible. And so I take that very seriously. There's things we can do in the short term. There's things we have to do in the long term, like get rid of Tabor altogether. But it's going to take step by step and a lot of hard work with all the folks in this room to get that done. And then we can say we're properly funding our schools and investing in the next generation. Now, the last thing that I wanted to bring up today, is something that hasn't been talked a lot about in this campaign, and that's the minimum wage. Now, if we're going to have opportunity in Denver, in cities where the cost of living is starting to really rise extremely fast, rents, be able to buy a house, be able to just afford to live here, we need to take a serious look at the minimum wage. And I am a strong proponent for increasing the minimum wage across the state. We need to do it now. We need to not delay this action any longer. And to address the minimum wage, we need to do it in a very thoughtful way. And there's been a really interesting movement in Oregon, which has some similar dynamics to what we have in Colorado, right? Some high-cost urban areas, some lower-priced rural areas. Oregon and Colorado have a lot in common. Not to mention Bernie won is in strong position in both the states. But that's one thing that I think we need to do and something I really want to tackle if I'm your representative in the State House of Representatives. So again, my name is Chris Hansen. Energy, environment, we need to make progress, need to fund our schools, need to raise the minimum wage. I hope I'll have your support at the County Assembly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Next on our list is Jeff Hart.
Hello, everybody. You still feeling the burn? Yeah! All right, me too. My name's Jeff Hart. I'm running for State Representative in House District 6. Just a little bit of background, then I want to get to this long list of topics that you all brought up at the beginning of the afternoon. Try to hit them all as quickly as I can. So I spent most of the last 5 decades here in Colorado. Grew up here, went to CU Denver, came out of CU Denver, went to work for the Government Accountability Office, the GAO. Who's heard of that? Right? If you're interested in accountability in government, that's what they're about. Went on from there to work almost 20 years with the Environmental Protection Agency. I know you've all heard of them. In 2006, still working for EPA. I'm going to tell a short story. Went and saw An Inconvenient Truth. Who saw it? Yeah, all right. The next day, I contacted Al Gore's office and I said, look, I just saw the movie, explained who I was. I said, I didn't know what I didn't know. Obviously, we need to get the word out to more people that this is serious and it's urgent. So I said, can I get a copy of his slides? Because I want to go out and help spread the word. And they said, oh, Mr. Hart, we can't do that. We don't even know you from the man in the moon. And I said, okay, I guess I understand. So I went and put my own presentation together. I went on the internet, found all the same melting glacier pictures and all this charts and graphs. Put my PowerPoint together, sent it to them. I said, by the way, I'm serious. I just wanted you to know this is what I'm doing. Pretty soon they got back to me. They said, you know what, Mr. Hart, we've been talking around the office here. We're talking with Mr. Gore. We think we're going to put together a formal training program to train people like you to go out and do what you're already doing. And I said, well, great. Let me know when you get that done. I'd love to be a part of that as well. And I went out and continued my own show. Pretty soon they got back to me, and I was invited to be one of the first people personally trained by Al Gore to go out in the community and give his official inconvenient truth presentation. I say that for one reason. The main reason is to say that's how committed I am to the environment. 20 years at EPA, protecting Colorado's air, land, and water. Climate change activist since 2006, and I mean an activist. I'm not just talking about climate change, and I'm just talking about the fact we need to accelerate our transition from dirty fossil fuels to clean renewable energy. I've been doing it. So we're not making much progress. 07, 08, I'm feeling a little frustrated. We're not moving faster with this transition. This bridge in natural gas is the bridge to the future. I'll talk about this T-shirt in a minute, because I actually think it's a bridge to nowhere. So I realize it's what's preventing our progress. What's preventing our progress on climate change and every other issue that's at the top of our list? Money in politics. You got it. You heard John Biggerstaff. You heard Erin Bennett. You heard Lois whose big shoes I hope to fill, talk about some of these same things. I could just say what they said, right? But we're not making much progress. Ken Gordon, you heard that name, used to fill this seat, used to represent the same part of town in the state house and the state senate. He asked me to come work with him to help set up a new organization. Remember this, cleanslatenow.org. Okay. I can see, some people are nodding their heads, okay? Great source if you're concerned about money in politics for great research on who's taking money from who, in addition to the Secretary of State's website. So I helped him set up that organization in 2010-2011. So since then I've been working a dual track, climate change, action, and not just study and research, but climate change action, accelerating the transition to renewables, and getting big money out of politics. Some differences between me and my opponents. Only I can say I've done all these things, and they add up to showing leadership and campaign finance reform. Not only do I not take any PAC money, not only do I not take any lobbyist money, not only do I not take any oil, gas, or any other corporate money, okay? I don't take any of it, just like Lois said. Because this is the root cause of every single issue that we in this room and many people outside of this room care about. So if you care about climate change and saving our climate for future generations, if you care about getting big money out of politics so that we can fix healthcare and education and go right on down the list, then I am your official Bernie thinker. And if you don't believe that, check out on Facebook, Bernie Thinkers Facebook page. I'm the first of many dozens of candidates around the country that the Bernie Thinkers group has officially endorsed. Let's see, so let me go down your list real quick. How much time do I have? I am out of time. I'm going to hang around as long as you guys want. But again, I've been an activist on the fight for the $15 minimum wage. I've marched with the home health care workers to get that minimum wage passed, and many, many, many other issues that we don't even have time to talk about right now. Again, I'm Jeff Hart. I'm your progressive Bernie Thinkers candidate for House District 6. I'd appreciate your support, even if you're not in my district. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Our next candidate is Michelle Fry.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for convening this. The Bernie movement on the ground is amazing. The GOTV that you guys have created is phenomenal. And no matter which candidate wins, we need to harness this as a group of Democrats and vote for Democrats, down ticket, down ballot, and make sure that we support each other. My name again is Michelle Fry. I'm a candidate for State Representative in House District 6. Just a little bit about myself. I am fourth generation in the district I'm running in. I know that district well, from the east to the west, the north to the south, the diversity that is actually in the district that is not talked about. I was raised by a single mom, so the fight for 15, the paid family leave or family leave that has been continuously voted down last session is something that's near and dear to my heart because I know how hard it is for a single mom to make it, especially in the Denver economy now, with the cost of housing, with the cost of health care, with the cost of transportation that's public that just went up. I have the experience to get things started day one. I am the only candidate in my race that has been down at the Capitol working on legislation such as that Lois Representative Court mentioned, the right to die. I worked with Representative Melton and it served 2 amendments that tightened it up. So health insurance companies couldn't say, you're terminal, here's a pill, we're not going to pay for you to continue treatment, to feel better, to prolong your life, just go over here and take care of that. I also was asked to run for this seat by strong progressive Democrats that are down in the Capitol. Representative Joe Salazar, who is leading the fight against oil and gas companies right now, who is introducing a bill next week that is the fracking liability bill that will hold oil and gas companies responsible for the damage that they cause by fracking in the back of people's homes, by creating earthquakes, by creating damage in general to the air and to the ground and to the water. I am endorsed by Senator Jesse Ulibarri, who has been working his entire career working for working families, making sure that they have a voice and that they do not fall by the wayside. When we see Walmart, people keep putting people at a minimum hours and then upon interview say, here's how you go and apply for public welfare. That is not acceptable. They are getting our tax breaks and they are making us as taxpayers pay to cover what they should be covering in the form of health insurance. Nobody wants to have to be on food assistance or on public funded health care. I'm also endorsed by Representative Javon Melton and again Joe Salazar, who just brought the right to rest bill again. Criminalization of homelessness is an abomination, and everybody should have the right to live and rest freely. And that is born of not just young people, mental health, people with mental health issues, substance abuse. We're seeing seniors now that are homeless, and that is disgusting to me. And nobody that has worked their whole entire life should not be able to afford to live because our rents are too high, because our home prices have gone too high. And it was killed. And I will tell you that one of my opponents is endorsed by the representative that killed that bill. So apparently he feels that being homelessness should be criminalized and that their belongings should be considered contraband and taken away from them. I have worked my entire life. We talk about education. I'm actually out now at Aurora Central High School that has a large refugee population, a large minority population, making sure that those students' voices are heard, the parents are heard, the teachers are heard, and that it's not turned into a charter school, that we are not corporatizing education, that we are not taking our taxpayer dollars and making charter schools. It's unacceptable to me. And what I will say to you is I have also been working with the senior and aging community, keeping them in their homes, making sure that they understand their Medicare, making sure that if they can't pay for their Medicare, they know how to get assistance so that they are covered with their health care, understanding that they don't have to choose between food and taking their prescriptions. And I've actually done that work. There was an individual out at Windsor Gardens that heard me speak and came up and said, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I need help. Can you please help me? I've done everything. And I was able to do some digging, and I kept her in her home. I helped make sure that she was taken care of and that she got the benefits that she needed to do. Overall, I am ready to hit the ground running day one. I have a bill to introduce for fracking that will take it away from the state to say you can't ban fracking and help home rule take control. Again, I'm Michelle Fry and I'm a candidate for state representative in House District 6 and I hope to earn your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. That was our House District 6 race, and now we're going to move on to House District 8, where I live. And I know a lot of you do too. So our first candidate running for House District 8 is Erin Goldhammer.
Good afternoon, engaged Democrats. My name is Erin Goldhammer, and I'm running to be the next representative in House District 8. Welcome to House District 8, where we are right now. It stretches from about here to Park Hill. It's a fantastic district, most heavily registered Democratic district in the state. So I think we need a real progressive leader to lead the charge. I was the captain for the House District for the Denver Democrats for 4 years. There was a lot of grassroots organizing. It was a fantastic experience organizing volunteers. I talked a lot of people into doing a lot of hard work and was honored to receive the 2014 Volunteer of the Year Award from the county party, mostly because we have such an engaged district. I serve on boards with NARAL Pro-Choice Colorado here in town, as well as the Legal Aid Foundation, and for our new rec center right next to East High School, which is going to be a fantastic addition in the neighborhood. I am a Denver native. I'm a former teacher. I'm currently an attorney. I represent people in small businesses that have been ripped off or abused by someone in a position of power. So, pushing back on the abuse of power and making sure that everyone gets a fair shake is what I'm all about. What is it to get a fair shake? I think that it's getting a fair shake is, working 40 hours a week and not living in poverty. I think getting a fair shake is getting equal pay for equal work. I think getting a fair shake is being able to access affordable childcare and health care and housing. I think it's not having to breathe dirty air or drink dirty water because someone else is trying to make a buck. I think it's not being gunned down in the street from random gun violence. I think it's having access to quality neighborhood schools and being able to access affordable higher education. Higher education shouldn't be a debt sentence in this state. I think it's being able to not live in poverty in retirement. I think these are fairly uncontroversial values. I think these are shared social values. But the task of politics is translating social values into social rules. And I think a lot gets lost in translation. So if you look at the social rules that we have right now in Colorado, Denver could not raise its own minimum wage if it wanted to. There's a state law prohibiting cities from raising their own minimum wage. I think we absolutely need to raise the minimum wage statewide, but we can have that conversation in Denver and push it even higher. Because our progressive communities should be able to enact progressive values. So I'd like to get rid of that state law prohibiting cities from taking their own action. We've got a state law prohibiting cities from enacting any sort of rent control. Rent control is a very tough topic, but it should at least be part of our conversation. We should at least be able to have that part of the mix in making sure that people have affordable housing. We also, fail to allocate our resources where they're really needed. And we can avoid the ridiculous Tabor refunds to everyone if we increase our match of the federal earned income tax credit, which is one of the most powerful federal tools for fighting poverty that's out there. We will be matching a portion of it this year for the first time in a long time. I'd like to expand that match because it's a fantastic way to get money into the pockets of people that really need it and are going to spend it in our local economy. So those are some of my, a couple of my policy pieces. You can't get too much into the weeds on policy stuff in 5 minutes, but I'd encourage you to go to my website, eringoldhammer.org. You can check out some issue positions there. I think it's more important sometimes to know a candidate's values rather than their vision on every single piece of legislation. So I think I've tried to convey some of my values today. I think that my values include making sure that we have elected officials that are responsive, are accessible, are putting in humble and hard work for you and not for special interests, because we deserve better than a hijacked democracy. We deserve politicians, elected officials who are looking to advance Coloradans' careers, not just their own. So those are some of my core values. I hope that you'll support me. Check out the website, eringoldhammer.org. You can look on the Secretary of State's website to see who's getting money from where. I'd encourage you to do that. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and thank you for your commitment to building a better Colorado.
Our next candidate actually has someone to introduce them. So I'm very honored to introduce this person, Rudy Gonzalez.
How's it going, everyone? Mercury Cafe here in East Denver in the East Side. This is where I grew up. This is where my father was born in 1928, a few blocks down. Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez. I'm the co-chair of the Denver Chapter Colorado Latino Forum. I'm also an executive director of a major human service provider that also is a very strong advocacy agency. So growing up in the Chicano movement, growing up in the struggle here in Denver, and growing up here in East Denver, you know, we faced, we marched, we fought, we struggled, and we're still in this struggle for social justice, equity, and peace. And I'm almost 60 years old now. And, you know, endorsing Bernie Sanders about a month ago, and I took a lot of flack from the Latino and Latina old guard establishment, Democratic establishment old guard, who said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I can't do the work of keeping families from falling into crises or bringing families out of crises and not endorse a man who has been absolutely consistent throughout his lifetime in a struggle for social justice, equity, and peace." I don't know what that hypocrisy means. That's what I try to fight every day. And that's what like my father, who dedicated his life to the same struggle for all humanity, not just for Latinos and Latinas, not just for Chicano and Chicanas. And on my dad's side, my dad's mother's side, I'm 21st generation. So I was here before Colorado's Colorado. And yet I still go back to where you come from. I can pirouette. Most people got to take a boat home, right? I'm indigenous. We are indigenous to this hemisphere as Chicano, Mexican, Indian people. And so when I look at that, and I still see the overwhelming exclusivity of political representation that's not representative of the numbers in this state of Latino, Latina. You know, we're almost 30%, and I think we're underreported. Someone said we're 20% of this city. We're 34, 40% of this city, and then we're underreported. But we're getting pushed out because we cannot afford the housing in here anymore. We're getting pushed out, and the city will be a pretty homogenous enclave of demographic. So there's a lot of fights happening right now, and I work with Joe Salazar, and I'm sad to say we're going to be seeing Senator Ulibarri, one of our champions, leaving the state senate and not running again. So we need more champions in there who are going to back up people like Joe Salazar, like Javon Mountain. And I'm like my father was magic with the youth because he got us ready and he put us into leadership positions, right? And then he gave us the keys. And if we made a mistake, he taught us what we did wrong and then he threw us back in the water. And so that's how I work with our youth. And because of endorsing Bernie Sanders, let me tell you, that 20 points happened because the Latino, Chicano, and Chicana, and the young Latino, Latina youth came out in force to caucus. And I'm so proud of that. Because that old Latino and Latina guard, they took the keys from them. Because we cannot live forever. We can live in their past, but we can't live in their future. So we've got to get them into leadership positions. And in that vein, I want to introduce to you a person who worked with my son for many years at CU Boulder in the Tri-Exec and helped diversify that campus, fought for affordable tuition and housing for students of color, fought against the racist nature on that campus with students of color. And my son is Sergio Gonzalez. So I just want to say, in that vein, in that honor of who my father was, of the work I do with our young people and getting them ready for leadership, we need more people of color in the State House who are going to be champions for our issues, which are human issues, just like fracking, which is a human issue, just like right to rest, which lost because 2 Democrats voted against it, which is a human issue, just like now Ballot 107, which is going to dilute communities of color's political strength and is a form of voter suppression put together and crafted by 6 white men, 2 of them Bernie Buescher and Mark Ferradino. And I told, and I heard they told Ferradino, remember Romanoff. Because that House Bill 1023 is still killing and creating torture and pain and suffering for our undocumented communities. So I just want to introduce Leslie Harod for HD8.
Thank you, Rudy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leslie Harod, and I am running for State House for District 8. I'm honored to have someone like Rudy Gonzalez, who grew up on the East Side, to speak for me in a very passionate way. I tell you, give Rudy the mic, he won't give it back, usually. So I'm honored that he gave it to me tonight. So District 8 is Northeast Denver. It goes from 6th Avenue to 52nd Street and about Broadway to Yosemite. So our caucus sites last week were East, Smiley, and Manual. Is anyone in the room were at those sites? For those of you guys who were, you saw how much the Democrats showed out for us that night, right? And throughout the entire state of Colorado. That is why newly registered Democrat, first-time caucusers took over the caucuses. This political revolution did in fact happen. It did in fact happen. And we had so many folks there supporting Bernie Sanders because that is what you guys all care about and what you came to do. So thank you for showing up. So I'm going to keep this really short, but I wanted to tell you guys a quick story. So people ask me, why are you involved in politics? And I say, definitely always it's because of my mother. My mom was a single mom who joined the military to get out of poverty in Oakland, California. She fought every day so that me and my brother could get an education and have access to opportunities that she did not. And so, So the reason why I'm here, the reason why I co-founded New Era, Colorado, which fought back against Excel on fracking and kept utilities public in Boulder. The reason why I was the president of Colorado Black Women for Political Action. The reason why I was the senior policy advisor for Governor Ritter was because my mom gave me these opportunities, and I feel like it is my job to give back. I will continue to fight for those of us who do not have our own voice. I am on the board for Urban Peak. I fight for homeless youth. And I will continue to do that work. So what I will fight for are things that we all care about, which is access to education for all of us, affordable housing, and definitely criminal justice system reform. So I'm here. I will be here afterwards. I've been here all day. Ask me any questions you have, and I really appreciate your support at the caucus, at the assembly. Thank you.
All right, thanks guys. So we do have 2 more candidates from State House, House District 27. We have Wade Norris.
What's up, Bernie people? This is my caucus captain card from the caucus tonight, and I'm proud to say that I did not get on board Bernie late. I've been running canvases out of my house every Saturday since January. And I want to talk to you about the last time I was speaking here at the Mercury Cafe. It was spring of 2013, and all the Front Range fractivists were gathered together because they had just turned in 14,000 petition signatures to Governor Hickenlooper, and he kindly told them thank you and did not speak with them in his office. And then he went on the air the next week and said he was going to continue to sue Longmont for banning fracking. I have been working as an independent journalist since I started my own YouTube radio show called Ultimate Politics, where I've written articles criticizing the governor, calling him for a primary in 2014, and also working to stop fracking and other environmental abuses from happening. I'm glad to say this year something phenomenal happened to me. When asked to run again, I really didn't want to do it. Because in 2014, when I was asked the first time and I had my first meeting with the smart Democratic people, I told them I was going to follow Ken Gordon's advice and not take in corporate PAC money. And the smart people in the Democratic Party told me, well, you're just throwing away your chance to win. And so when I was coming back home from North Carolina this summer, I didn't want to run. If I have to compromise my principles to run for office, I didn't want to do it. And losing sucks. It does. But then I went to YouTube and I saw Seth MacFarlane's summary of the first Democratic debate when he said, only one candidate got the answer right about the #1 national security threat. And that candidate was Bernie Sanders. And he said the #1 national security threat is climate change. And that's not just his opinion, that's the Pentagon's opinion too. After that, I said, that's my guy. I don't care if I run or not, I'm going to go to his meetings. And what the #1 question I would hear in the 2014 midterm was the smart Democratic people were saying, hey Wade, you write, you do blogs, you write for Huffington Post. What can we do to get young people and new voters in our party? I was like, I mean, the leaders of our party are supporting frack. I don't know what to do, man. You guys are on the wrong side of a lot of issues. Then I went to this Bernie meeting this fall, and there was the answer. Young people, new people, energized people, people that had never been involved before. I said, man, we can do this. We can run and be a clean campaign. We can get new people involved. And did you know Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a revolutionary? You know why? Because like Gil Scott-Heron, she thought the revolution would not be televised. But you know what it is going to be? It's on social media. We can Facebook our way into a new democracy. And even though Marcos at Daily Kos is saying that we're not going to have any debate past March 15th about who the general election candidate is,
He's wrong.
and I told him so. We will continue to fight, and when the mainstream media finally covers Bernie the way he should, once he wins New York and California and takes the lead, then we'll know what side the media is on. And that's one thing I'm proud to say as an independent journalist. My website, Ultimate Politics, news from people, not corporations, been in existence since 2007. And I've used my platform to call out people on both sides, especially Democrats, when they are banning the principles of the Democratic Party and leaving us behind on climate change. So, I'm not going to bore you with a lot more. I will tell you this. We, y'all, are the revolution. And I want to thank Bernie Sanders for giving me the encouragement by turning out so many new people to feel confident enough to run for office and to take up the challenge again after a terrible loss. Thank you, Bernie, and thank you, people, for Bernie-crats.
All right, so we have one candidate left from CD7, Sean Carlson.
Last person to go. Woo-hoo! We're going to go in here soon. All right, as you mentioned, my name is Sean Carlson. I'm in House District 29 and Congressional District 7, and I am running for Congress. First question I want to ask, why is this guy running for politics? Who in their right minds would actually want to be in the meat grinder that is politics? Luckily, none of us are in their right minds. We're all on their left, so I think we're pretty good to go on that one. Thank you. Thank you for the pity laughs. Okay, but why do I not get into it? I always tell people I don't actually want to be a politician because I do not believe in professional politicians. Right now, I see a need to serve in politics. That's something that's always spoken to me. So I actually attended West Point in 2006 and graduated in 2006. It doesn't look like it with my long hair and like a hippie looks now, but I did. Then served 8 years as an Army infantry officer. Went to Korea, had a combat tour in Iraq, had a combat tour in Afghanistan. Served a total of 8 years until the Army told me and about 2,000 to 3,000 other officers to leave, even though they're fully qualified, because the Congress could not pass a budget and not pass sequester. And so here I am now challenging the sitting congressman because he did not do his job. Overall, I've seen always a lack of leadership in politics, both in left and right, and I've seen, again, through the lens of the military, what good leadership and bad leadership, and especially the lack of leadership, can do. And so I see a very fundamental difference in society right now, in income, racial equality, minority support, pay for women, and everything. And trust me, see my headband, I know discrimination. I served, including West Point, 10 of my 12 years under Don't Ask, Don't Tell that was passed by the Clintons in the 90s. So I can see the effect that it has on people, both subtle and up front. So fundamentally, what do I see government? I see government as an enabler of people, an enabler of their potential. I don't see government telling people what to do, what plants you can or cannot smoke, or what women can or cannot do with their own bodies. That is not right. Thank you. I believe we should provide a level playing field for everyone to reach their own potential, which means meeting the basics, laying level rules and fair rules, and letting people work on their own to what they want to accomplish. So I think fundamentally we need to change the narrative, and which we're doing here today. The more people that participate, the more voices that are heard, we will change the narrative and change it from what we have, like what the Founding Fathers envisioned, to the system that we have today that would have had them turning over in their graves. So first we need to rebuild communities. That's something that Bernie has started to do, which is something great for me. I never really got to see my local community moving around the military, and it's been an amazing thing meeting also amazing people like Joan Smith there, and Drew, and all the people I've met in the Bernie campaign, and Dan, and Wade now. And so I want to do like a 5-point plan that I think government should do in order to build this. I think we need to enable. First of all, that means providing the basics. Basics like healthcare. Healthcare is a right, as we mentioned, time and time again. And the only way to do that is by a single-payer health system that everyone in is actually covered. Also included is like special education. Right now, about 1 in 40 children are diagnosed with autism, and pretty soon, on its current trend, we may see every kid diagnosed with some sort of mental disability. We cannot take care of people by pushing them away, out of sight, out of mind. That is not right. So we enable, and then we educate. It includes Bernie Sanders' plan to support college, free college for everybody. Not just free college, but taking care and paying for all levels of it. If you look at right now, the fact that we can't pay school teachers for an entire school day, and see, look at a school lunch, and see if we're taking care of kids or not, and you'll see what I mean. Then we need to empower. That means, talk about voting rights. I absolutely support automatic voter registration and getting more people to the polls and more voices heard. And people cannot feel empowered if they go okay, you can have the right to vote, but if you say, my vote doesn't count, but the Koch brothers are going to outspend you, then it does not mean anything. So campaign finance reform. Next, we need to allow people. Even if you empower them, they can vote. If you're taking them off the streets for marijuana, if you're persecuting them in the criminal justice system, they would not feel like they can allowed to have a voice. I have a 2-part just on that. Feel free to talk to me afterwards. I only have about 45 seconds left, but a couple-point plan in order to address that. And after allowing, which includes criminal justice reform, marijuana reform, and demilitarizing the police, finally we need to build people. That's again rebuilding communities, crossing ideas, having meetings like this. It is not just one idea. I'm going to go with it and run with it. I've heard other ideas here. I've been writing down notes that I've heard from all the other candidates, and it's this kind of thing, just like the TED Talks, people like them, that cross-utilizing ideas is the way to get it done. So finally, how I see it to do it again, for me, it's all about leadership. Change is inevitable. Obama started it, and change is going to be happening. It's only with leadership, which includes not just standing here, but what you're doing there, that we change it move it from change to actual progress. And that's what I'd like your help on. And thank you again. And it's Sean Carlson running for Congress.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for showing up. Do we have any other announcements?
Yeah, so just real quick, these are short. We have about a half hour left until we have to be out of start cleaning up, basically. So use that time to meet with the candidates, get any of your questions answered, like we said before. Make sure that you have a good understanding of where each of these people stand on the issues that are important to you. Also, who here is a delegate?
Or an alternate.
Okay, or an alternate. All right, so we do want to also start thinking about providing you guys with information and how we can get you plugged into the right people so that you know what to do at the conventions, at the assemblies. So Where is Mike McCorrick? Oh, there he goes. Okay, over here in the hat with his hand up. So Mike knows the caucus process. He knows the delegate process. What we can do is we'll have Mike over here in the left-hand corner. If any of you have any questions, please go see him and make sure that you get your questions answered. Also, please make sure that we got your email address because we will be sending out an email with more caucus or more convention and assembly information so that you guys know kind of what to expect. All right? Thank you very much for coming out. We really, really appreciate you guys coming and spending your afternoon with us. Thank you so much.
There'll be another forum at E.V. Garrett Dennis on the 19th, going from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's being put on by the Far Northeast Neighbors, and we'd love to see you all there. And yeah, I'll turn it over to Robert. Thank you all so much.
Hey y'all, thank you very much for showing up today. I want to let you know about two other events that's happening. One that's happening at 6 o'clock tonight. There is another presidential Democratic debate. It's the 7th one. It's going to be on CNN, and we are broadcasting it live at the Skylark Lounge, which is 140 South Broadway, starting at 6 o'clock. And then this Wednesday, as well as every other Wednesday, we are having a political revolution meeting going on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. This Wednesday is a potluck dinner, so we're hoping everybody will come and bring some kind of a food. And also it's Cathy's super delicate writing letter campaign. And so we're hoping that as many people as possible will come out this Wednesday and also every other Wednesday. And we will have a potluck there once a month. And so this is one way that we can keep the revolution going and keep going over different subjects and issues. We will have candidates show up, and anybody who wants to be part of this, just get a hold of us and you can be part of it. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Cathy, you want to have anything?
Don't give a big mouth a microphone, you'll never get it back. Okay guys, I don't know about you. I worked my tail off to get Bernie through Colorado in the caucus. And I think all of us did. And parents, please close your children's ears. I'll be goddamned if they steal it from me because of superdelegates. That is why I have said, okay guys, bring your paper, bring your envelopes, bring your stamps. We're going to start writing each and every delegate, explaining to them, okay, if your constituents went to Hillary, then support Hillary. I'm okay with that. I don't like it, but that's fair. If your constituents supported Bernie, you better support Bernie or you may not get my vote next time.
Damn right!
And oh, by the way, guys, Michael Bennett is up for re-election in the fall. Perlmutter, Polis, Degette, who, to my face, I asked her to pledge in a House District 8 meeting, if your constituents overwhelmingly go for Bernie Sanders, will you support Bernie Sanders? And her response to me pissed me off. Her response was, I will pledge to you that I will support whoever the eventual nominee is. But she's going to support Clinton, even though Congressional District 1 went overwhelmingly for Bernie. That doesn't sit with me. I'm past the point of sitting back and every 4 years bubbling up, helping someone to get elected, and then going back down. I accept my enlistment, and if you know me and know how I feel about the military, that's a really hard word for me to say, but I accept my enlistment into the political revolution, guys. This is not a 4-year thing. This is an everyday, for the rest of my life thing. Now, I'm going to have to learn how to balance that with real life? Yes. We all are going to have to do that. But right now, The first step is to get the superdelegates on board with us. And not only do we have some superdelegates, and I would say we probably ought to leave Hickenlooper to the end, because right now he doesn't have any election coming up. He wants our votes in the future, I'm sure, for something. He's also on the short list for Hillary, for VP. But, so let's put him to the side and do him last. But Bennett, Degette, Polis, Perlmutter, who am I forgetting, guys? They all have elections coming up. They need to earn my vote. They do that by supporting the policies that I support. And one of them is, if your congressional district went to a candidate, you represent your congressional districts. So, come enjoy the potluck, bring something to share, guys. Then we're gonna kind of piggyback on their potluck, get organized, and I'm probably gonna take the Wednesdays that they're not gonna be there, but that's yet to be seen. But we're gonna wind up organizing and they will listen. Okay, I'll give up the mic now.
Folks, I just wanted to run a correction. I do not believe that that forum at Eva Garrett Dennis will happen, so I just want to run a correction on that. And the other thing, our folks at Denver Homeless Out Loud would like you to know that the next couple days at like 5 a.m., they're going to start sweeping people off the streets. And if you want to come join us, if you want to be hooked into our network, please get in touch with us and we will tell you when they're doing it and when to get out there and to observe and to let them know that you know what's going on in this city. Thank you. It's on Park Avenue at by the Samaritan House. Thank you. Facebook, or you can find my email, DJB, or come talk to Emma right here. You can also get in touch with me anytime. My name is Derrick Blanton, 720-345-2890, and you can email me at djb12030@gmail.com. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.